MusicTalk tracks down Alex Whiteman, frontman for Western Australian band Great Gable. The quartet has just released their second album, On the Wall in the Morning Light, after touring New Zealand, where we saw them at Auckland's Tuning Fork. So, Alex, any memories of the gig?
So you feel a little spaced out. Why do you run from your calm down? Oh, can you spare the attitude?
I like playing at the Tuning Fork. You're kind of high up. You know, they perch you a bit higher than normal, so you get a good view of the crowd. And I think it was like an all ages gig, and they're always it's interesting to see the young kids out and mix with the older kids as well, I suppose. Yeah.
It was a very young crowd. Of course, to me, everybody's a young crowd, but it was particularly young.
Well, I feel like I'm not far off from saying that too.
Oh yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, yeah, it was fun. I think there was a band before you guys, Corduroy, that were pretty good as well. So I don't know if you got a chance to catch them. Yeah.
We played most of the shows around New Zealand with Corduroy. Actually, definitely on the North Island. Anyway, we played with them on the North Island. Yeah.
Right. So now the album's out. Did you do anything exciting on Friday?
Well, Thursday night we had what was it? It was a launch gig, you know. Right. So we played this venue in Perth, which is it's called Mojo's, and it's a bit of like a, everyone you start gigging there, and you're also it's a cool spot in Freo, right. Anyway. And so we put on a show there Thursday night with all our mates. Had my mum came down, all yeah, it was a good gig, you know. And then Friday, I actually got really sick Friday, and we've been gigging for months now. Right. And I didn't get sick the whole time, but then I just got really sick Friday. So I think that's a good sign. And we're not caught
up to you, that's all. But at least you held off till the end. That's good. Excellent.
That's right.
Oh, you needed a break.
Yeah. I'm happy to have it as well. I'm happy to have it. But
very good. Yeah. So let's talk about how you made this record. You recorded this thing where, in a place called Rainbow Valley Studio?
Yeah. So that's it's like I don't know if you know much of the east coast of Australia, but it's in New South Wales, right. Up the top north of it, not far from where it crosses over to be Queensland.
Okay.
And there's a town called Tumbolgum, and it's within the forests up there somewhere, and the valley's called Rainbow Valley, and or Fernvale is its real name, but they've Matt Corby's dubbed it Rainbow Valley.
Right.
Big, and that's where the studio is, and he's got a big house there, and so we spent a month there doing that.
Yeah, you like working with Matt, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a real clever guy, and he's got a great vibe about him, and we all really get along with him. He's only a few years older than us as well, but he does cast a bit of a dad shadow, which is cool.
I'm sure you'd be thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, well, he's he's done. I don't know if you know of much of Matt's work, but we love his music, and we love everything he's done. So it's important for us to have someone that's kind of taken these steps and navigated this stuff before, and it can kind of tell us how to go about it as well.
Right. And you also work with a guy named Alex as well, right? So there's you, the band, there's Matt and Alex. So who does what? Have you guys got kind of defined roles, or you just kind of wing it?
Well, the band, we try very much just stick to just worrying about what we individually do. But Matt Corby, he's he's sat at the desk all day producing, and he looks everything under the microscope, I reckon. He's pretty clued in with every little inch of the song.
A detail man, huh?
Yeah. Whereas Alex is a big picture guy, and he's probably more about trying to capture the vibe of the whole shebang, rather than just looking at individual little bits. So it works together. It works really well.
Cool. So when you're recording, are you recording live in the studio, or are you doing a lot of layering? How's it working for you guys?
Well, on an average day, we'd start with just us showing them the structure of the song that we have so far by jamming together. We spend a lot of time just playing the songs,
right?
As a 4-piece, and then we just we'd start by just tracking it would be me playing rhythm guitar and singing roughly to a metronome. They'd add drums to that, and then you would just layer up from there and just, you know, just go from there, keep building it up. And but like I would say a good portion of like 2 hours, 2-3 hours is spent just making sure we can all play our parts and get the structure bang on. And then we start like building up as a 4-piece, you know, and then we start individually building up. And then I don't have, like, after I do the scratch run of the guitar and vocals, I've got nothing to do for the whole day, you know, like, 'cause I don't have to play guitar or sing until like pretty much the very end after that. Like, yeah. So it's cool to watch it all shape, you know?
Yeah. And do you kind of get a few opinions in every once in a while?
Well, I think everyone's like, no one leaves or anything. You know? Everyone's really keen to make sure it you know, blossoms out, because there's 4 of us and we all want to put in, you know, we all want to have our little stamp on it and stuff, because we're proud of like the fact we get to just make music. So I think, but you know when it's time to give the guy a break and take off for a walk or something, you know? Yeah.
Okay. So it starts out with a tune called Dancing Shoes, and pretty upbeat, optimistic, good feeling vibe, which is kind of different than a lot of people are doing these days. Everybody's bummed out because they're all COVIDed up and locked down and isolated. So was that the kind of did you consciously want to have that kind of feel for the record, or did it just happen that way?
Put on your dancing shoes, 'cause I'm looking around for you. As time goes on, I lose everything but your love.
Well, I suppose we didn't really like, you know, when we started writing these tunes, I don't think we were all like, no one really had the idea that everyone's gonna be writing sad music, so let's try like write upbeat music, because like I guess, you know, you never really believed that this pandemic was stretching out for that long anyway. So I think it's just where we were, the right time, you know, for us, all in the right moment. We're all just in a positive mood, and we decided we wanted to write upbeat, happy songs, because playing them live is just so much fun. It's so much, like, you can pull in new crowds and stuff like that a lot easier, and just like, we wanted to make sure that we had upbeat songs to play, to get people going. And like, we love playing live, so that's always a big factor of it, you know?
Well, I noticed that when, like I said, when we saw you at the tuning fork, that you could kind of feel that happening as the set started to take off, and even though you were playing new songs that folks weren't necessarily that familiar with. So well, that's it. And you know, that's why we spend a lot of time jamming the songs before we recorded them, because we were like, we made a conscious effort to go, let's make sure we can play these, like, you know, we can get away with playing these as a 4-piece, which, you know, nowadays you can add so many layers to tracks, it can get like overwhelming, you know, like, so we wanted to make sure that, you know, guitar was a heavy feature on this album, because that's what we are. We're a guitar-based band, you know. Right. Yeah. And so did you have all the songs written and planned out before you went into the studio, or how organized were you there?
We like because of the pandemic, we had a long time to write and demo and stuff. So we had probably like 30 songs for Matt and Alex to kind of go through and check out. So they picked their 12, maybe 13 favorites, and then we kind of just went in there, and that, like, some of them were just like, you know, all there was a verse and a chorus and, like, you know, a riff or something like that. But we knew that this was strong enough to work on, but like most of them were like, the structures hadn't changed too much. Right.
So how does the writing process work? Does everybody write? Was it mostly you? And of course, everybody's got, if more than one person is writing and you've got 30 songs to choose from, that could cause problems, I would think, if you're whittling it down to 12.
Well, we definitely, this is probably the first record where we really made sure that everyone in the band's writing, because we split everything 4 ways. So we don't want it, we don't want anything like as silly as money to kind of annoy people.
Well, it's happened to a lot of big bands where they've fallen apart simply because of that.
So we make sure, like, everyone's writing tunes, everyone brings them in. Like, our drummer Callum brought in Dancing Shoes, you know, And it's made it a new way of writing for us, because he's brought in a drum beat and like, you know, two chords for the song. That's all the verses are. That's all he kind of had. And then we get together and jam it as a band, and then we can flesh out how it feels, you know?
Yeah.
So but you know, there's a couple of songs that I brought in like practically the whole thing. And then like, there's a track called When I Grow Up and
Yep.
Do You Belong, or a couple others that I've practically got the whole thing, but it's not really, we're all always open for changing things up here and there, but if it feels right, it feels right. We just don't question it really. We just go, right, this is a great one, you know?
Yeah. Well, if you wrote When I Grow Up, it's kind of looking for what prompted you to write that little Rascal?
I think like my girlfriend and I were chatting, and she told me she was like getting a bit sick of her work and all of this sort of stuff, and she didn't really know if it's what she wants to do.
Right.
And I guess like for a while now, I haven't really had to ask that question.
Yep.
So it was kind of cool to kind of try to put myself back in that mind, like, you know, the start of the song, there's that slow bit that's like walking around here, and you're like feeling left out, like you've kind of missed what you're kind of meant to be doing or something. And then it like busts into this happier sort of just like, oh, I'm going to figure it out, you know, when I grow up,
right.
You know. Yeah. And it's meant to, I guess I'm kind of taking the piss because I've not really grown up or anything, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
You got a long way to go still, but you know. But it is kind of weird, especially because you're kind of running a business as well as a band. And so there's a lot of responsibility, and you got other people depending on you and your other bandmates and blah, blah, blah. So there is some growing up to do to be doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah. I feel like, you know, we're lucky to, you know, I feel like we're getting away with murder, to be honest. But there is parts of the job, you know, when you go on tour, it's no mucking around. Like right. We're not taking, you know, we're not mucking around or like taking the piss there. Like it's serious. It's real serious for us, and we love it, but it can be quite tough, you know. Yep. But I think it's still like a lot of responsibility to make sure that we maintain all the relationships that, like, you know, within the band and without the band, whilst, you know, spending time away. And then, like, you know, I'll spend months with these boys, like day after day. So we've got to get along, right? Like,
that's a fact. There's a video for what? Sidewalk, is there? Yeah.
Sidewalk, yeah.
So you take much, do you get involved with the visual of things?
Hey, you seem a bit caught up. Why are you avoiding your problems? Oh, that's all right. I am too.
I can't say I'm too visually creative, to be honest. It's always been something I've not really, I don't know. It's just, I just don't know if I have any sort of knack for it. I know what, like, I feel like I know if someone shows me something that's cool, I go, oh yeah, that's cool. But like,
yep.
I can't put two and two together really. Like, how's that done, sort of thing. So I like the video, but I also just can't look at myself. I can't watch videos. So I don't even know if I've watched the whole thing. Like, I just watched it. Just like too much of my own face, and like that's why in the past we've never really. I've never really gone, oh, we should do music videos where we're all in it, because I don't think we're too bothered about being like seen too often, you know.
Fair enough. And it's boring making videos. You got to do the same thing over and over again, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I give props to like actors and that though. It's, you know, it's not an easy job doing that stuff, especially when there's people walking around and stuff, like, you know, near. Like that scares me. It scares me.
What can you tell me about the song Sidewalk? Was that one of yours?
No, that was one of the guitarist, Matt. He practically had, for like, you know, the verse and the chorus, all the verses and the choruses, all the words and everything, you know. Like it was really like, it took me, because it's like he's got a deep voice, Matt, so like it's a bit lower than what I'd normally sing, but I kind of like that, you know. It's like it's grown up on me, and I like how the verses, you know, they start at a pace, and then the phrasing of the vocals kind of jumps the song into gear, and then it starts moving with the bass and the drums, which I, as a singer, wouldn't have come up with.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have that on an album, and Matt can say, you know, he wrote that song, and like, you know, and we put it all together nicely. But you'd have to ask him what it's about, you know. Like,
That's fair enough. That's all right. You know, we can all interpret whatever we want to into it. That's what music's all about anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like the band is working together really well. And so is it changing? It must be different than when you guys first came together, right?
Yeah, when we first got together, it was much more myself and Matt doing practically all the writing. Right. But more so, like, it would come, like, I'll practically come in with a chord progression and all the vocals, and then everyone kind of adds on top of it from there. Whereas now it's like a song can come from anywhere. It just makes it so much more exciting, and then it's everyone gets a bit of what they want.
Yep.
Out of it, you know.
Cool. So you thinking about what you're going to do next?
You know, we're actually meant to have a meeting today. We're all going to catch up at the pub and talk about talk about that question. Right. So
how do those meetings usually go? Are they loud? Are they raucous? Or everybody take part?
Well, we all probably have not asked ourselves the question until we rock up. Right. But like, our manager's there, and she's very, 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 very organized. Her name's Kelsey, and she'll have some answers to the questions. Like what she thinks, and then we'll probably chat about it for a while. But I think writing more music is something we love to do, so that's not going to stop. And I know we've got a tour coming up in October around Australia. Right. So those two are definites, you know.
Yep. All right. Well, hope the meeting goes well.
Well, thanks, Marty. Thank you. Me too.
Anyway, all righty. Well, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. And come back again. We'll be ready for you on the next album, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, no worries, mate. And maybe we'll play the Spark Arena. So
there you go. It's just next door. You should
exactly.
All righty. Very good. Have a great day.
Cheers, Marty. Bye.
Bye-bye.